Welcome back, everyone, to TK Talks. This is podcast number 5, and we're going to be talking about life as a Division II student athlete. So let's just start with where we started this school year, preseason and captain practices. We started this in August 1st through 5th or so. We had captain practices, and for those that don't know, that's just when the team is together without any coaches, and we just practice for a couple days, get the kinks out, and get back with the boys before we start preseason.
It's a nice way to know and get to know everyone, because then you meet the freshmen. This is their first time being around the guys, not be with the coach. So I think it creates a more cooler, comfortable environment along those sorts. Yeah, so captain's practice is really fun. I look forward to it a lot because, especially when you play, you can just get out there, kind of do your thing, and just play a little free. So then when it's time for preseason, like you mentioned, you're more structured, you know what to do, you kind of get more into a rhythm of how to do things. And how would you explain preseason, Tom, and just like how it's been for us as student athletes?
So we're now juniors. We went through 2 preseasons because of COVID. We missed out on our freshman year. Every year we get kind of basically a sheet that's front and back that has our schedule for the next 2 weeks.
Yep. And
it starts with, we have mandatory breakfast together that's provided by Westchester. So we go to the new building for breakfast as a team. Then we head down to the fields. We have a practice. Go back home, shower, eat some lunch, rest up for a little bit.
Yeah.
Then we have another session in the afternoon, and then we have dinner at the dining hall as well. So it's a grind for 2 weeks. Yeah. It's fun, but it's a lot of work.
It's almost like you want to fall asleep like right after you get that second dinner, bro. But yeah, it's pretty cool because even if you're one of those persons that do not necessarily like a structured schedule, like time by time to an extent, what it does for you is it gives you a plan at least. At least you know what, I'm gonna have some breakfast with the team, bond a little bit, then I'm gonna go practice and do all that type of thing. The only downfall is your schedule is packed, so you don't get to do all the extracurricular things that you may want to do, but you have a chance to do that during some points in the season and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting, Tom. And how would you say the transition is going from, okay, it's captain's practices, all right, it's preseason. Can we share to them how the average student athlete deals with academics coming into the picture when school's starting up and then the season's undergoing?
So yeah, for captain practices and preseason, thankfully we don't have school. So we can kind of more focus on soccer, on our playing, and on our recovery.
Yeah.
But once we're done with preseason, classes start.
It's go time.
And then we're in our normal season, we're in the swing of things. So my advice to student athletes is just stay on top of your work. If you can honestly get all your assignments done at least a day before, and you're staying at least a couple days ahead of your schoolwork, that's the best way to do it. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind. You're going to be stressed. That could affect your playing performance, and you just have to really make sure you have every aspect of your life under control during season, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
you're always on the go. You're always traveling, so it's a grind for a couple months straight.
Yeah. And I agree with that, especially from past experience during my first semesters and stuff like that, because putting off work obviously doesn't help. We've talked about that before. We've talked about how building a schedule, working ahead, and all those stuff could be a benefit towards you. And then in addition to that is when you do your schoolwork ahead of time and you have games coming up. Let's say it's Wednesday, right? We have Wednesdays on game days. A person like me, I like to focus on just the game. I pick my schedule where I don't have class on Wednesdays. I like to focus on the game. I don't want to worry about schoolwork. So if I just do my schoolwork Tuesday and Thursday, I don't have to worry about, rushing and getting things done. So I think that's a great point, because as student athletes, you never know what could come up. It could be another practice or reschedule a game. Anything can really happen amongst them during the season. So that's very important to just be proactive with your work and stuff like that, especially even tests. One thing I learned is it's best to study periodically, meaning that don't wait for the last couple of days to study for the test. I've learned that as well. If you can just keep reviewing stuff in advance, so then incrementally when it all builds up together, then it adds up more. And speaking of our games, Tom, now we're talking about, okay, we were from captain's practices to preseason, and now we threw the academic into the mix. So now the next thing to discuss is get more in depth with home games, and how do we handle that? How do we prepare as student athletes?
So every practice before a game, we have what's called a pre-game practice.
PGP.
So we know exactly what we're going to do. For the most part, we warm up, we do this certain passing drill, and we all know it. So we just really focus on trying to be clean with it, be just have the ball zipping around, and then we do, a possession drill. We then figure out, what the starting lineup is. We do a walkthrough of what our strategy is for the game. If there's certain things for like set pieces or free kicks, we always go through those little kinks, and we take a look at the other team, what their personnel is, where their strengths and weaknesses are. So that is what we do every game before, or every practice before a game. And for home games, it's nice because we don't have to travel. We can still go to class. We can still make class, and we just go down, and it's our home field. So we're comfortable with it. We practice on it every day, and it's just a different atmosphere. Especially in college, I think home field advantage is definitely a thing for sure.
Yeah, especially if you have like good supporters, good fans, people that's willing to cheer you on, cheer for the other team, whatever it may be. That helps so much towards it. I remember because Tom and I went to high school, neighboring high schools, right? And when we go to them, it's like the fan base have their own student section. It just brings more of a hype and just energy towards it. And then as players, you feel that, right? You feel that on the field and stuff like that. So that definitely helps. And yeah, home games, for a fact, it's the best, right? Where else do you want to be other than Rockwell? That's our field, by the way. So yeah, I think that's really important. And just how we prepare and get that mental mindset towards that game is going to help us a lot. And on the contrary, now we're talking about games, let's start to discuss away games and tell them like what it's like, how it is, packing, traveling, all those different things, because that's when the schoolwork and prioritizing your important things really, really matters.
Yes, you're 100% right. Away games, in my opinion, I really like them. I have fun especially when we travel and stuff. It feels almost like you're a professional in a way. We posted all of our day in lives over Project 50, so some people did get insight on what away games look like. But for the most part, we have those Beaver buses. We have very nice buses. The upperclassmen, we get our own seat, so the freshmen have to sit together on the bus.
Hierarchies.
And for the packing, there's two different types. There's, say if we're just going on an away game with no overnight stay. We did 2 overnight trips this year. With no overnight trip, we just have to get jersey, soccer socks, cleats, just basic soccer stuff. You don't really have to worry about anything else. Maybe just headphones and laptop for the bus.
Pillow if you need, if it's long.
Yep, but for overnight trips, you have to, bring a extra set of clothes. You have to toothbrush, stuff that you wouldn't typically bring. But Westchester does a great job with having the food swipes for us, where we can just use our card, so we don't have to worry about food. We can just focus on the game, and we stop as a team. We get some food together. So some places we stopped at were like Panera, Wegmans, Wawa, Sheetz, just stuff like that. And we always really appreciate Westchester giving us money, because we are hungry after the games. We're starving. We need to eat, because we played 90 minutes. So that's one thing Westchester does a good job about. They do take care of us on away trips.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, shout out to Westchester, because that's very important. As you said, as athletes, we need a nutrition, and we need the versatility in what kind of food we can get. So the places we do stop at always has at least 1, 2, or 3 options, which helps out a lot, obviously, because not everyone eats and is interested in the same thing. And I really like away games too. I think one of the best one was our overnight. I believe it was Laka, even if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that was pretty fun. We got to roam the streets a little bit, saw this new store that opened and stuff like that. So yeah, I think away games help a lot, and it's also, interestingly, another way to bond with the guys, because you're going into a whole new environment, especially for the overnight visits. When you do overnight, you get to. So how it works is you have a room, everyone has a room, 2 of us in a room, but the thing is you don't know who your roommates is until you get selected, right? So coach just picks out random cards, and it's almost like is it going to be a time? Yeah, it's almost like a lottery, because it's like you never know. And then if it's someone you never really talked or hang out with, then maybe that's your opportunity to start to build and form a new friendship and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if you look at it, and depending the different angles you look at it, you can really benefit not only just from a soccer standpoint, honestly.
Yeah, you're right. And for example, for our overnight trip in West Virginia at Shepherd, I was roommates with a freshman named Reese, and I never really talked to Reese that much, outside.
Cool guy though.
But he's cool. Yeah, we had some great conversation, and you're right. It does build kind of relationships off the field. So I'm a fan of overnight trips. We didn't have any last year, but I'm really happy we had 2 this year, and we're gonna have a couple next year as well.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing we're gonna transition into is just when it comes to dealing with the middle of the season, when you have midterms coming up, stress is building. How do you handle that? Now the thing is, when you handle that, it depends on what you do, and like Tom said earlier, in terms of the structure you create. Because if you're already behind on work, then you're behind on that as well. It's not going to help you, right? So how can you prepare ahead, study ahead? Can you take that test a day before if it's on a game day? Can you figure out something with your professors? Communicating with your professors is very, very imperative. And Tom, I know you have a good amount of experience on that. Even sometimes when you want to work ahead, but maybe you don't get the opportunity to, but you're striving to get work ahead. So could you just give a little more insight of how you can be more proactive to advance in yourself?
So that was a good comment about professor. You have to build relationships with your professor, especially as a student athlete.
Yeah.
On the first day of every class, I go introduce myself, say, "Oh, hey, I'm Thomas Hanvey. I'm on the men's soccer team," because eventually, for the most part, you're gonna either miss a class one time, maybe you're late on an assignment or something. They can give you maybe a little extra slack if you actually have a good connection with them. So that's one thing I would suggest every student athlete to do. On the first day of class, introduce yourself to your professor. But in the swing of mid-season, you're in a good routine, you know exactly what you're doing, and you're just grinding. You don't really have a lot of free time. That's the one thing mid-season. You have to make the most out of every time that you have, because your body's tired, you're mentally tired. You're grinding. You're going through a lot of different things. Your daily schedule is jam-packed.
Yeah.
So, of course, you're gonna want to take it easy some days, and that's expected. So it's just all about trying to make the most out of your time, because time's the most valuable thing.
And speaking of that, Tom, now we talk about the tiredness, the stress coming in, and so when it comes to our day off, how as a student athlete do we deal with that? How best to maximize that day, and just what are the things that we simply enjoy on a day off, being that it is a day off?
Our days off in season are always Sunday, because we've got games Wednesday, Saturdays, so our day off is Sunday. Me personally, I want to make sure all my schoolwork's done. I'm all set for the entire week, just so I can exactly relax and just enjoy the day off and not have to worry about school. Me and a couple of guys, like for example, Brandon Duke, Frankie Taylor, Trevor Luby, we play golf a lot. We're avid golfers, so we played a couple times during the season, and it's just a good way to mentally kind of reset, do something we enjoy. It's honestly like a recovery in a way, because you're still moving, you're still active, but it's not as physically demanding. And it's just good to get some fresh air and play some golf.
Absolutely. And one of the things that you need to figure out is, what can you do to enjoy yourself, to bring yourself back into peace? Okay, I may be stressed here and stressed here, but like we've learned recently and just throughout our experiences, how you handle stress and how much you can tolerate determines what you can do, right? And kind of predicts your future in a way. Okay, can I turn my stress into some energy where I could change it and transform it into something better? Okay, I'm stressed. Can I do this one assignment and get this thing out of the way? Okay, I'm stressed. Okay, it's my day off. Go golf, go do this, go train. Maybe your thing is, maybe you just want to finish all your work and just take an hour at night and watch Netflix and just call it a night. Whatever it is you find at peace that just keeps you structured in a way, that's going to best help you. It's very important not to waste a day off. I get we all want to rest throughout the whole day. I mean, unless we're injured or something, there's definitely something we can do to stay ahead and stay in task the whole time. So I would say that's something really important. And Tom, my question for you is, so we've talked about the start of the season. We talked about preseason, the start, okay? How to integrate both academics and athletics. So now, can we see how to integrate, being that we talked about, tests and midterms and stuff like that? So let's tell the viewers now, okay, it's coming, we're in the current situation, right? It's coming down to crunch time, right? It's coming down to finals week and stuff like that. How do we best handle that, right? How do we best figure that out. What's our plans? But just right before we speak on that, just give us a little touch on just, okay, it's PSAC playoffs time, which is a couple weeks right before the finals. So how do we transition as student athletes and as people into these last periods, to say, of the semester?
So for PSAC playoffs, only 3 teams from each side make it. Top seed gets a bye, and we were the 3rd seed this year. So we played ESU. We played at their place. We took them all the way to PKs, and we unfortunately lost in a PK shootout. We played a great game, and it was one of our best of the season. We didn't make the NCAA tournament, so we were done after that. And we were transitioning from, okay, soccer was the most important thing that we were doing. Now it's all academics.
Yep.
So we changed, our identity goes from, mainly student athletes to more just students.
Yep.
Just really focus on your school, on your classes. And once it comes crunch time like it is now, we have a lot more free time. So we do have soccer here and there. We have lifts we have lifts today, but you have a lot more free time. And the best way, as you just did recently, is make sure you have a plan of what you have to do for the rest of the year, and you have it written down. You know exactly for each class what assignment you have to do, when does it due by, just so you have an understanding of what your load looks like per each week and per each day.
Yeah.
And the best way for studying for finals is just chipping away at it. You have to start early, start reviewing your notes, maybe even make a office hours appointment with your professor if it's a class that you're struggling in. You have to make sure you really take the step, because finals and exams are such a big part of your grade that you can't just blow it off. You have to really prepare for it. And that's one thing that I've learned in my years at college so far, is if you just honestly study for each exam, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, it sounds so much simpler than it is. You just need to study.
And one thing with professors is, it's good to be honest, and you should be honest, because let's say, okay, fine, you missed the mark, you may have fell off the path a little bit, but you want to get back. That's the most important thing, right? You notice, you acknowledge, and you want to make a change towards it. Okay, professor, this is my situation. Any advice on how I can continue? Is there any way you can help me? Is there anything I could do? Because then that shows, okay, this person may have made a mistake, but they have the humility to accept it, and they want to get better. If you're falling off the path and then you say nothing, or if you have a question and then you say nothing, who does that benefit? No one at all, right? So I think it's very important to just sit down, okay, am I on the path? And if I am, what can I ask my professor? What can we do? Can I get extra credit? And then vice versa. If I'm not, can I speak to him and can he help me out? Because at the end of the day, to an extent, they're a service to you. So they're not going to be mad at you for asking the question, right? That you were trying to get better. So I think that's one very important thing coming into finals week. And like you said, studying. And it goes back to a professor, like you said, office hours, and a lot of times they could offer extra credit with office hours, and maybe you go to the writing center, whatever the case may be. They're literally giving you an opportunity to go for help more. So I think that is really important. Now that we're in the midst of it, we're in the crunch time of it, it's interesting how fast time has flew by. It really is, because now we're looking at it now. It's okay, we have these 2 weeks left. It really matters, right? How do we push through? Is our mindset the same? Can we keep a certain same schedule going? Even though we're in the midst of finals week, here we are starting the podcast a little bit over 9 a.m., right? We were going to start it earlier, but we're still trying to find times and trying to find things to do to figure it out, and just to balance our time and still do meaningful things.
Yeah, and time does fly. I still remember preseason just thinking, oh my God, these next 2 weeks are going to take forever, because it is a grind.
Yeah, for sure.
And man, it's just crazy how fast it goes. We've got around 2.5 weeks left of school. Then we go back for winter break. I'm doing a 2.5 week long trip to Florida, so I'll have content for golf and stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy. We're done with our junior season, and next time we step on the field, we're gonna be seniors.
Yeah.
We got to be the leaders of the team, and it's crazy how fast time goes. That's one thing that I would say to every viewer out there: enjoy every day, and because nothing's for granted. You can't take anything for granted. It's just, it goes by so quick, and before you know it, we'll be out of college and out onto the real world.
And this is one thing I've learned, and I'm glad you mentioned that word, seniors. The whole point of building a schedule, doing what needs to be done, handling your business, and being proactive is, it stems leadership qualities, right? And as we become seniors, and one thing Coach Ben has told me way in the past, in order to, I would phrase it this way, you must lead yourself first, then you must lead your class, then you must lead a team, right? So if I can't lead myself, if I can't get what I need to get done, if I can't do my schoolwork, if I can't stay on top of my things for the most part, then how can I lead you guys? How can you lead me? How can we lead the team as a senior class, right? So it builds up, everything does build up. The more you do stuff together, the more you handle your business. Okay, when it's time for freshmen to come in, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, I have a question about this. You are in the right position, and not only are you in the right position, but you have the experience to answer their question and to direct them in the right direction and not in the wrong direction. So that was very well said.
So Kress, we are almost done with this semester, and what does our spring semester look like? Because our season does fall and is under the fall.
Yeah.
And tell us what our season looks like for the spring.
So spring semester, there's a few changes, right? It's a non-championship season, which means there's much less games and stuff like that. So the thing with spring semester is, before spring break, it's a very strict schedule. We do lifting most of the times. When we lift, we really get at it, we really get after it and stuff like that, right? So, and even before that, like the guys are lifting in the rec together, like we're all getting stuff done. So that's, mostly we start off lifting, but then when spring break hits, there's a change in, right? We still lift and stuff like that, but we get outside a little more. We practice a lot more and stuff like that. But it's somewhat balanced in a way, right? Still being a non-championship season, I believe we have an extra day off. If not, we still have our Sundays off. Okay. And then in addition to that, we have about 5 games in the spring semester, give or take. And then those games are really important because after all that lifting, practicing, working hard, and our fitness tests, what you do is you go out there and showcase yourself. You know, everyone gets around the same minutes because it's the springtime. You go out there, okay, coach, I've been doing this. Here's my results. Okay, it's your time to not only be a team player, but to also prove yourself. And finding that balance, because that's very important. Obviously, a team player comes first. But if you're a 1v1 and it's your time to score, then you need to use your opportunity wisely, right? So that's the difference with spring semester. It's not as much volume in terms of games, but the intensity stays the same. It really does. Maybe you can even increase it because now you have experience from the last season. So yeah, spring semester is different. I think it's also important and beneficial because you have an opportunity to be more with your team. You have an opportunity to get to know your guys more. And that's really important because in any possible thing in life, relationships always make it better. Always makes it better. Like there's no debating about that, right? If we didn't have a good relationship, we wouldn't be doing half these things. It's just, relationship builds trust, and if you want to literally go out there, figuratively speaking, not literally, if you want to go out there and die for your friend, die for your brother, die for your teammate, it stems from a personal relationship, right? If I barely know you, it's hard to do certain things, but the more we know each other, the easier it is, and just the more fun you have. Simple as that. The more fun you have. There's nothing really better than just like having a good time, having a good talk with your boys, with your teammates. You know, you can't beat that. So that's what I think.
Yeah, we summed up pretty much all after the spring season. We go home for summer and we basically repeat the exact same process. So
you get better though.
Yep, exactly. So I think we've touched up on pretty much every single subject as being a Division II student athlete, and we hope you guys enjoyed it and maybe learned something and can take away from this.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you guys again, of course, for tuning in. We appreciate everything. Always like and subscribe and keep following our experience. TK experience, that is.
On to the next one, yeah.
So,